Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Emily. I'm a doctor working in dermatology, and this afternoon I'm going to talk a little around Melanotan, also known as the Barbie drug. So, what we'll aim to cover is what is Melanotan, what are the risks and side effects, and how is it being portrayed on social media. And just for the purposes of this presentation, I just want to highlight that when we talk about Melanotan, I'm referring to the unregulated drug sold on the black market. But before we go into that, I think it would be helpful to talk a little around skin cancer and why it's relevant for substances like Melanotan. There are a few different types of skin cancer, but the deadliest form of skin cancer is called melanoma. Unfortunately, melanoma is something we see commonly in clinic, and across Ireland, there are over 1,000 new melanomas diagnosed each year. Melanoma is caused when the pigment cells in the skin, which are called melanocytes, go into uncontrolled overproduction. This is a little diagram showing the development of melanoma in the deeper levels of the skin, where the pigment cells have started producing pigment in an unregulated way. The main risk factor for developing melanoma is UV exposure, whether this is via sun exposure or using tanning beds. Overexposure to UV radiation causes DNA damage, which can cause your cells to mutate, leading to cancer. When we look at the literature, there is an association between melanotan use and melanoma, which is described in case reports. And by case reports, we mean there have been individual cases where people who have taken melanotan then go on to develop a melanoma. And this is why I'd like to spend some time talking about the dangers of unregulated melanotan use today. So, melanotan is a compound that is sometimes used to promote tanning and weight loss. And for this reason, it's sometimes known as the Barbie drug. They are often taken as injections or nasal sprays, so people might talk about being on the tanning injection or the tanning spray. People that use these injections or sprays sometimes use them alongside tanning beds to maximize UV exposure. Melanotan works by stimulating those pigment cells in the skin to go into unregulated overproduction of pigment. Melanotan is illegal to sell. It's not a licensed medical product, and its production is completely unregulated. So what we do know, in recent years, there have been case reports of a possible relationship between melanotan use and melanoma. Now, larger studies looking at this relationship are lacking, but what we can say is because these tanning injections are unregulated, we do not know the full risks, and this is why we strongly urge people not to use them. Unregulated means that we do not know what the composition of the product contains, we do not know the purity, and we do not know if the product contains any other active ingredients. All this means is that users are potentially taking a risk without knowing the full story. As we've said, melanotan may be associated with developing melanoma. Melanoma is the deadliest form of skin cancer. And we know that 90% of melanomas are thought to be caused by excess UV light. We know that using a tanning bed before the age of 30 increases your risk of melanoma by 75%. And for this reason, tanning beds are put into the highest cancer risk category by the World Health Organization. Melanotan may also cause new moles to develop and may cause changes in the moles that you already have. And this can make it challenging to assess your moles in the dermatology clinic. As well as these concerns, melanotan may also cause a number of side effects, which include flushing, nausea, vomiting, reduced appetite, and can sometimes cause painful erections in men. As we've mentioned, because melanotan is unregulated, the vials that it's sold in may be contaminated with other compounds or with bacteria. You do not know what you're buying. For these reasons, the Irish Medicines Regulator, the HPRA, Irish Cancer Society, and Cancer Research UK have issued warnings against using Melanotan. Melanotan is illegal to sell, but may be found being sold in tanning salons, gyms, and across social media. So, onto the social media perceptions. We looked at 400 posts on social media which featured Melanotan. We found that most people were using Melanotan for tanning. And in these posts, only a quarter mentioned any potential side effects. Only a quarter mentioned skin cancer at all. And of those posts, over a third actually claimed that Melanotan is protective against skin cancer. They made the claim that Melanotan causes skin darkening, which means you're more protected from the sun. We know that there's no such thing as safe tanning, and tanning is actually a sign of too much UV exposure, increasing your risk of skin cancers like melanoma. So this is really quite a potentially dangerous and unproven claim. Only a very small proportion of the posts mentioned that Melanotan is unregulated and illegal. We saw that many of the posts were offering to sell Melanotan either through a link to a website or by giving a phone number to make contact. And when we looked back at the 32 posts which claimed that Melanotan is protective against skin cancer, we saw that 2/3 of these were actually offering sale of Melanotan in the same post. We also saw that lots of the posts which were advertising Melanotan were made to look like they were set in a clinical environment with the sellers wearing scrubs. And this might be to imply that Melanotan is a safe medical product, which it's not, as it's not licensed and not regulated. So to summarize, Melanotan is an illegally produced compound which is sold on the black market to promote tanning and weight loss. There is a potential association with the deadliest form of skin cancer, melanoma. It's illegal and unregulated, but despite this, is promoted for sale on social media where there's lots of misinformation about its safety. I think this highlights the importance of promoting reputable sources of health information online and the importance of regulators to remove posts which are promoting dangerous, illegal products. I hope having listened to this presentation, there's more awareness of these dangerous compounds and how sellers online may make false claims to make a sale. These are my references. Thank you so much for listening. Does anyone have any questions for me?